Hey everyone, welcome back to the 93.7 The Fan YouTube channel and the latest edition of Oh Mama, a look back at the 2008 Steel Curtain defense, the last one to win a Super Bowl for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Arizona Cardinals in Tampa Bay, and one of the young guys, at that time young, who was a huge part of it, LaMarr Woodley. Nice enough to join us this week. LaMarr, of course, drafted in 2007, same year the Steelers drafted Lawrence Timmons and William Gay. And all three of those guys had unique experiences in that they weren't Bill Cowher guys, right? They won it with Cowher's players. Right? You hear that all the time. But these guys were all crucial, all learned at the hands of teammates whose jobs they would eventually take, and were crucial parts of that Super Bowl 43 team. So, this week on Oh Mama, brought to you by South Hills Kia, we get a chance to have an extended conversation with the man who effectively wrapped up Super Bowl 43 with a strip sack of Kurt Warner. Let's bring him in right now. And lucky enough to be joined this week by one of the guys who was relatively young and new to that 2008 Steelers defense, but certainly didn't have his success limited to when he arrived in the NFL. He was on the edge, tormenting quarterbacks. You may remember the T-shirts at Michigan that said, "Guns don't kill quarterbacks. LaMarr Woodley kills quarterbacks." LaMarr Woodley joins us, the man who, in effect, closed out Super Bowl 43. LaMarr, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I am excited to talk to you because you're the first of the guys who were not around for Super Bowl 40 that we've had a chance to talk to. And there was a handful of you who came in the year Mike Tomlin came in. So you don't come from the Cowher era or the Cowher regime. And so you, Lawrence Timmons, William Gay, all came in as a part of that 2007 draft. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to start with where we started with just about everybody on this series, which is what led up to becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler before we get into being a Steeler in that 2008 season and that defense in particular. And for you, it was a major impact at a major program, the University of Michigan. I mentioned the T-shirts. Above and beyond that, I mean, a Bednarik finalist, unanimous first-team All-American in 2006, Outland Trophy and Nagurski Trophy watch lists, Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. You are from Michigan. You grew up in Michigan. You went to Michigan. So what led to you, I guess, falling in love with the game of football as a kid and then deciding, hey, I'm going to stay in Michigan to continue my football career in college?
Well, even going back to high school, I'm from Saginaw, Michigan, and I was All-American there, number 2 linebacker in the country, probably in the top 20 in the country. So I've been getting sacks for a very long time. Like I've just been always been able to make an impact on wherever I go, and I've always been a part of the team going back to high school that everybody wants to beat. Everybody wants to prove that they're best against. And for me, I had opportunity to go anywhere I wanted to across the country. And Michigan, to me, stood out because Michigan talked about more than just being an athlete. They talked about being a student athlete. And Coach Carr and Coach Fred Jackson talked about life after the game. I remember Coach Carr telling me that, LaMarr, if you get hurt, we're still going to honor your scholarship. And on all the visits that I went on, Michigan was more focused on academics and then athletics than everybody else was more focused on athletics. So for me, I thought about life after the game because I can get hurt at any given time. And I wanted to make sure that I had a future if I no longer could physically play the game anymore. And so I wasn't worried about any school that I went to because I felt like any school that I'm going to go to, I'm going to have an impact on the field. But I knew that sometimes you need that extra push off the field. And Michigan was the school to tell me that. And it felt like that. Every time I went there on an unofficial visit, it felt like that. And that's what they displayed with a academic advisor. So me going to Michigan was simply that. And when I look back at it, it was a great decision because there's 100,000 in that stadium every week. Michigan is that team to beat. Michigan has that respect and that tradition. We're on TV every week. The stadiums are packed every week, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So a lot of stuff that I'm saying now is also related to the Steelers. It's packed every week. Just diehard fans every week. And so for me, going to Michigan was the right decision because it was more than just about the game of football. It was about life.
Leading up to that, you mentioned the accolades in high school, but when you're a kid, a little kid, when's the first time you step on a football field? And I guess more importantly, when's the first time you realize how good it feels to sack a quarterback?
I think like for me, like I've always been a big kid. Like when I was in sixth grade, I weighed 160 and I couldn't play tackle football because there was a weight limit. There was a weight limit. So I had to play touch football that year. And the following year in seventh grade is when I started playing. Actually, I started playing tackle football, organized tackle football. And I played defensive end and I played tight end. But we didn't throw the ball, we always ran. So that's when it felt good to get the tackles then. And I remember being in middle school and, you know, they didn't recognize guys on the defense on the PA. Like in the morning when they announced like the team playing like the stats, they never said anything about the defense. They always say 5 touchdowns by this running back, that running back. So when I got to 8th grade, I moved to fullback. And I called myself, I was wearing number 36 and I called myself the Bus.
Oh,
and
okay.
And that's when I became a Pittsburgh Steelers fan in the 8th grade. So that was my journey of actually being a Steelers fan starting in the 8th grade when I moved to fullback.
So what's the reaction then when you're sitting there, you come out in the draft, you know, you're going to go fairly early in the draft, right? And you see the Steelers, you're sitting there watching the draft and the Steelers name is getting closer and closer to where your position may come in the draft and you get drafted. But at the same time, it's the first time in, at that point, 15 years, the Steelers are going through a coaching change, right? And so it's the Steelers, but you're not quite sure, is it going to be the Steelers that I've been used to? Because Mike Tomlin comes over from Minnesota and all the years in Tampa, and he's more of a Tony Dungy Tampa 2 guy. And who knows, maybe you're going to be a 4-3 defensive end and put your hand in the dirt. Maybe but Dick LeBeau sticks around. And so now as you get drafted and you start to acclimate yourself to Pittsburgh and the Steelers organization, just what were your thoughts about A, being drafted by the Steelers, and then B, once you got here, how you were going to fit in, what role you were going to plug into?
Well, I only visit 2 teams. I visit the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for me, the Pittsburgh Steelers was the Pittsburgh Steelers, regardless of what coach they bring in. It's the culture that they have there. And I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to bring in people that fits their culture. And so when I was watching the draft and I seen the Steelers take Lawrence Timmons, I knew it was over for me. Like, well, they already took their linebacker, so I guess that's it for me. And when I got the phone call and, you know, Coach Tomlin asked me, I think I can play outside linebacker? I told him, yeah. So it was a dream come true for me because it wasn't that far away from home as well. 4 or 5 hour, maybe a drive, hour flight. Like I said, Pittsburgh and Michigan has that same tradition and history. So I'm coming from that. I'm coming from a well-organized program, going to another well-organized program with a bunch of talented guys on there that's coming off really a Super Bowl where they're known for having linebackers with great tradition and history. And I have an opportunity to join that. So for me, I knew I had to go there regardless of all the awards that I won at Michigan and Lombardi, Ted Hendricks, all that. I had to go to Pittsburgh and reprove myself to show the guys on the team that I belong here. And I had to earn the respect of guys on the team. But I was up for that challenge because I've been doing it my entire life. It was nothing but just me going out here and learning how to play linebacker and just doing what I was doing. And that's what I came in and did.
So you walk into the facility the first day, or maybe not the first day, but, you know, once the first meetings and practices start to take place, that first rookie mini camp or whatever it may be. What's it like the first time you walk into the meeting room or the locker room and there's this big badass, or at least the way he portrays himself on television and in games, James Harrison standing there looking at you. Like, a lot of people, a lot of people look at James and say, "Man, that guy, that's a scary dude." When you're coming in as a rookie, you talk about gaining people's respect. Obviously, you expect to be treated like a teammate and somewhat like an equal, but at the same time, certain guys have certain reputations. And you mentioned the defense as a whole even had a reputation as being a bunch of, I'll use the term badasses, right? So when you walk in that first time, what's the vibe, I guess?
Well, with James Harrison at that time, that was my first year coming in, was his actually going to be his first year starting. So he was, he was just a guy trying to make a name for himself as well, on that D. So I didn't know James Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, Joey Porter was there, and you knew about him being a linebacker, and I knew Larry Foote. I really paid attention to those two guys because him being a Michigan guy. But guys like I was big fans of like Hines Ward, playing Madden with Hines Ward. You got those guys. You got Ben, but it wasn't no intimidation because I came from a big program like Michigan, so I was kind of like a little starstruck a little bit because, like I said, like you got guys like Hines Ward that you played with, and this is the organization that you've been a fan of, and you're actually here. But the intimidation part, no, I just knew that I had to come in and do what I had to do, and I felt like the veteran guys, they did a great job of bringing us in to make sure that we was comfortable, knowing that we were new in town. So all the veterans did a great job of making sure that we were comfortable coming in as rookies to make sure, enjoying that team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up next. Actually, you led right into it. I mentioned you mentioned Lawrence Timmons, Will Gay was part of that draft as well in 2007. All three you guys come in, and there are more established veterans at your positions or in your position groups, right? Like Lawrence Timmons walks in, and it's Larry Foote and James Farrier he gets to kind of learn from. You walk in, and you mentioned the lineage of linebackers in Pittsburgh. And in the case of Willie Gay, he walks in and there's an Ike Taylor and a Deshae Townsend to sort of bring him along. What was it really that sort of, I don't know, what would we call it, like an older brother type feel where they say, hey, this is how this works around here. We're going to help you along, even though we realize in some cases you may be here to take our job in a couple of years or sooner rather than later. And how does that develop itself? And how do you, I guess, at some point later in your career, start to hand that down to others as well?
I guess, like on every team, you got all types of players. And it's up to the young guys for us to identify which players with wings we want to get underneath. Mm-hmm. And for me, I took a little bit from different players. We had a great group of guys. But I've always watched Charlie Batch and the things that he was doing, because I was also a guy that was big in doing stuff in the community. And I've always watched Charlie Batch, the way he carried himself, the type of information that he provided us players, whether that's dealing with injuries, whether how to be a professional. Batch was somebody that I really, took a liking to because of just him professionals, like as an athlete. I've always respected that about him and the information that he was always willing to share with me. So Batch was one of the guys, but there were a lot of other guys, but Batch was just one of those guys that I really, took a liking to. Him and, Larry Foote being a Michigan guy, he was also one of the guys that brought me in. But all the guys did a great job of, like I said, making us feel comfortable right away.
So you get to St. Vincent College out in Latrobe for the first training camp. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that 2007 training camp, because I'll fill you in. I'm sure you're already familiar, but I'll fill you in on what the opinions were of some of the more established veterans as to what that camp was like. But you're coming fresh out of college. Like, this is your first NFL training camp. Maybe you don't know quite what to expect in an NFL training camp. What did you get that training camp?
Man, that training camp, first of all, the biggest change for me was being in the dorm room. Mm-hmm. Because at Michigan, we actually stayed in the hotel room. And yeah, we would take buses up back from campus. So actually going back into the dorm room reminded me of my freshman year. And we had me and Lawrence Timmons, we had twin beds. right next to each other. So you got to adjust to your roommate. Where Lawrence Timmons might want the air up super high.
Yeah.
I need the room just right. You know, you got the person next door, they might flush the toilet. So I had to adjust to like being in college all over again. Like that was the biggest adjustment, like that dorm room, the dorm room life was the biggest adjustment coming into training camp that I didn't know what to expect.
What was the camp itself, like the practices itself? What were those like? Again, for a guy fresh out of college who maybe doesn't have a baseline to compare it to, but then all of a sudden you get into camp and maybe, I don't know, maybe you start to hear some veterans complaining about how it's, what we're doing 2-a-days and we're hitting constantly. Had you mentally prepared yourself for that? So it wasn't a big deal, or was it like, man, I didn't think an NFL training camp would still be at this level?
No, actually, we kind of came in where they changed the rules a little bit, where they kind of took away the 2-a-days. And the 2-a-days was actually in the morning with just shells on or maybe just helmets on. So luckily, I came in when there wasn't no 2-a-days. So we heard a lot of the veterans talking about, man, how lucky y'all are for not actually having like 2 days and like full pads. So for me, that was great because it wasn't it was hot in St. Vincent. Like it seemed like those are the hottest days out there. But actually practicing and you have all the fans there, we didn't experience that in college. Like now we have fans there every day. So you had a real opportunity to see the loyalty of the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base. Like you coming out of practice, it's like coming out the WWE where all the fans yelling and you signing autographs. And they there the entire practice, and then having an opportunity to leave off campus and you seeing all the fans. So you really see what it feels like to be in the NFL and then the difference of not only on the field atmosphere, but just off the field atmosphere from the fans and supporter like in that city during that time.
Yeah, what's that? I mean, what's the thought of folks who come from outside the Pittsburgh area or maybe don't have a lot of experience with the Steelers the first time? That's a great analogy. I'd never thought of it that way. When you're walking down the hill from the locker room to practice, and it's like walking down the WWE ramp, and people are screaming your name, they're asking for autographs. Is it something that gets talked about before you end up in Pittsburgh by people like, oh man, that'd be so cool? Listen to what the guy I know who ended up with the Steelers went through, or is it something that doesn't really truly hit you until you're actually in it and walking down that path?
No, it don't hit you till you in it. I had no idea about that. Like coming out, going to practice. So like I said, in college, you go out, there's no fans there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you can just hear the fans through the door, like, holy shit, and it gives you that WWE feel, man. So it gets you riled up for practice, because
Right.
it's some tough days out there and definitely starting training camp on them hot days. So when you got those fans out there, rooting you on and yelling, and you can't get to the autographs with them, but they spark you up a little bit before you go out there to practice to give you that energy you need.
So let's turn the page now to the actual 2008 season that we're here to talk about, because you guys come out on fire, 4-1, 5-1, 6-3 through the first 9 games. And at that point, you're giving up, I want to say 14 points a game, something ridiculous like that. And then somehow you guys put your foot down and step on the gas even more as far as shutting down the opposition. Last 7 games of the season, you go 6-1. You give up just 83 points in the final 7 games of the season. So less than 12 points a game. And that includes a game where I think Tennessee actually got over on you guys just a little bit late in the year. You hold opponents to less than 2 touchdowns in all 6 of your wins in those final 7 games, including a 31-0 rout of Cleveland in week 17. So as you're working your way through that regular season, what are you thinking? What are guys talking about? I know everybody talks about just focusing on what's immediately in front of you. And Mike Tomlin is real good about preaching that. But are you starting to think as you move throughout the season, hey, we got to get to this number to clinch a division? Or is it really truly just blinders on, focused on week to week? And what are you guys talking about as you progress week through week?
Man, I don't think we're talking about nothing at all. I feel like because the brotherhood and the defense was so strong that we had so much confidence in ourselves. We knew that we had a bunch of warriors on the field in all positions, from the front line to the linebackers to the secondary. We knew that we were the toughest team on the field, and we were going to be the toughest team, and we was going to, intimidate you. We was going to get after you. We was going to set the tone. So we weren't. There was nothing to be afraid about. We made teams play to us. You got guys like me and James Harrison coming off the edge, like, damn, who you gonna block?
Right.
You got Casey Hampton clogging up the middle. You got Aaron Smith. You got Brett Keeser. Like, on that front, you had to pick your poison on who the hell are we gonna block, because all of these guys can play. And then the secondary we had and the linebacker group we had. So all around, we just had so much confidence, and we knew that we were a better team. We knew that we can go out there and score points on defense. We knew we can put our offense in good field position. We didn't care if our offense turned over the ball. If they just gave us a blade of grass to play, we gonna defend it. And I think that was the mentality that we had. Definitely being a young guy like myself, this is my second year in the league, and I'm pretty much the only new starter on defense. And I'm still proving myself to these guys to show that I belong here, because we just released Clark Hagan, which a lot of the guys on the team, this is their friend. Yeah. And I have to prove that I'm a part of the brotherhood too, and that I can contribute to the brotherhood too. So I fell in line of the leadership of what's going on. So I adapt. I had that mentality playing football, but now when you're on a team where everybody has that same mentality, it's just go.
Was it surprising to you at all? Like, I've had a couple guys tell me that there were times where, because everybody was so close, right? Off the field as well as on, there were times where they would really get into each other, right? And they'd be chewing each other out right there in the huddle on the field while they're waiting for the next call to come in. And, there are stories, it was either Foot or Ferrier said to me, no, you don't understand. Officials would look at each other and be like, do we need to separate these guys? Do we need to separate the teammates from each other? Yeah. Because there's a sense of accountability that you hold your brothers to. And that's the phrase that I think Larry used to describe it. Were you at all surprised at that level of, I guess, brutal honesty that the guys would have with each other? Is that something you had at Michigan? Was it new to you with the Steelers? Was it something that you were happy to have maybe in college and carry over to the NFL level? What was your reaction to that? To, hey, if you miss an assignment, somebody's going to get in your ass, and that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean they dislike you. They just want you to know there's a certain standard to be met.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I think it's funny. You hear Casey Hampton complaining about what y'all doing back there in the secondary. Ike Taylor coming up saying, man, y'all need to stop that run. I thought it was funny because the way that sometimes they express it. Like, you got guys that's mad, but like, Hemp might get mad. Man, come on, what y'all doing back there? Like, it was funny because no matter what, when we went to the next snap, it was like they talked about it and we went on. That's what it was. They talked about it and we went on to the next play. We go on the sideline, we talk about it, joke about it, and we move on to the next play. And I think that's just part of football. That's guys that care about the game of football and care about other guys on their team.
So between the atmosphere of sort of brotherhood and familial type atmosphere and the fact that, like, between the whistles, you're actually producing in your first full year as a starter. I think you had a sack in 8 of your first 11 games that year in 2008. Multiple sacks in 4 of those games. Are you looking around and, like, sort of trying to wake yourself up from a dream a little bit after, like, the first 10, 11, 12 weeks and go, man, I didn't think it would be this. I didn't think it'd be this easy. Or are you surprised or shocked at all by the results, or are you just truly that confident in yourself that, yeah, I had a feeling I'd be able to do this? But at what point does the realization that the expectations you had set for yourself personally are being realized? Like I said, when you have 3 weeks in a row or 4 out of 5 weeks in a row where you've got multiple sacks, you kind of pinch yourself a little bit and say, man, I can't believe this is happening.
No, not at all. Because, like I said, I've been doing that since high school, and there's nothing to be cocky about. It's just me, saying, like, if you go back and you look at my track record, like I've been doing it back since high school. I was doing it at the University of Michigan when I won all those awards, and I was doing that. And now we were just now coming into the league where I had to reprove myself. So I'm coming in I came in as a rookie, and I gave you 6 sacks, and I think I had 86 snaps. And then I come in that following year, my first game starting, I'm the AFC Player of the Week. You know, I get my first interception, sack. So I'm like, I'm getting back to doing what I'm doing. It's just when you first get to Pittsburgh and I made a position switch. I go from putting my hand in the dirt, not understanding coverages, not ever covering nobody, to now I have to switch my whole mentality, and I'm now the biggest outside linebacker in the league. So I have to prove myself, because now when I go out here and cover, if I don't show these teams I can cover, they're going to pick on me for the rest of my career. Right. So I have to prove that I can cover, and I have to prove that I can get at the quarterback, being 265, 270 at the time. So for me, it was just getting back to doing what I was doing, learning that defense and helping my team win. So even if I wasn't getting sacks, if I helped this team win, that was always the biggest thing for me, finding a way just to help my team win. And sometimes they don't show up on the stat sheet.
Aside from the veteran players, obviously, who you talked about finding the right wings to place yourself under, what'd you get from the coaching staff? Like, Dick LeBeau's a legend. Keith Butler is, in Steelers circles, a legend. As you're in that first and second year, and you talk about making the radical adjustment of going from a 4-3 defensive end with your hand in the dirt and being really damn good at it at Michigan to now adding a whole new skill set to your game and dropping into coverage, and at the size you were playing at, how difficult was it? And how much did those two in particular, Dick LeBeau and Keith Butler, help?
Man, it was real difficult, because it was like learning a new game. Because like I said, now you're dropping back in coverage. You have different responsibilities now. Playing the run and rushing, that's all the same. But the coverage and all that was completely different for me. And me and James Harrison didn't flip sides. So, you know, we can go from rushing to dropping in coverage, and then somebody motion, now we rushing, and it can just flip-flop. But Coach Butler did a great job of teaching me how to play linebacker. A great coach, a great teacher. And that's how I really learned to play the linebacker position, was Coach Keith Butler, the way that he walked you through it, the way that he forced our linebackers to communicate his meeting rooms. He was a fun, exciting coach that you enjoyed being around. And he taught the game like that. So Coach Butler really taught us the game, and really taught me the game on really how to play linebacker.
So we get through the regular season 2008 and we're into the playoffs now. All right. You guys have got all these numbers that have you graded out as one of the best, if not the best defenses in the league. You got a little trouble with the Chargers maybe for a minute in that wild card game, but you push through it. Ultimately, you hold Phillip Rivers off, and now you're headed into an AFC championship game. Your first full year as a starter, but I'm sure you're already familiar with the rivalry. It's the Baltimore Ravens. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you guys do what you had done most of the regular season. You hold the Ravens scoreless for much of the first half, I want to say, and you're up 13-0. Ravens claw their way, fight back into the thing. It's 16-14 with about 9.5 minutes left, and the offense has to punt it back to the Ravens. They've got the ball with a little less than 7 minutes, and it's that moment that hits in just about every Steeler game where the crowd's sort of lulled just a little bit, but the scoreboard goes dark, and you just hear, "Oh, mama, I'm in fear," and the place goes ape. It goes bananas. It goes wild. The first time as a player, maybe this goes back to 2007. I'm sure it happened at some point then. When this song comes on, and you're like, what is going on here? And the place starts going nuts, and the towels are twirling. You're like, I don't know what this song is. This is some classic rock stuff that I don't know. Maybe I don't recognize, but they're going crazy for it. What's your feeling for it? And what, just how do you become accustomed to it? And how does it actually, I guess, end up amping you up in some ways? Like Coach LeBeau said, he knew he didn't even have to coach you guys up. Because when the song came on, he knew the crowd would do their job and get you guys fired up. What's your experience with that Renegade song and from the first time until you become accustomed to it?
Well, from the first time, when the screen go dark, you like anybody else, like what's going on? You watch the screen and you see all the big highlight hits on there. The music change, and the crowd going wild. But you ain't out there on the field, so you can't really feel it as much because you ain't gonna make no damn impact, except because I'm on the side. Right. So now, when you become a starter, you try to make some impact so you can get a little couple of highlights on there when it comes on. And the difference is when you're out there on the field and you about to get ready to play, it's like now that I'm gonna put that energy towards, get hype. It got me hyped up to go out for the next play. Then, damn, I'm just sitting on the sideline. Damn, this is beautiful. Like, everybody is waving towels. Like, okay, I like it. But the real feeling was when I played, though, when I was out there for that first game start.
So the AFC Championship game against the Ravens, it happens to hit at a crazy time. Because I told you the scenario. You're only up by 2. It's late in the game. Flacco gets the ball back. At that point, Flacco had a little bit of this reputation of, hey, he might make something happen at this point. But 5 plays later, Troy picks him off, runs it back. It's the pick 6 at that point, felt like ice the game, right? What's your reaction as that is happening? And look, you've played in Ann Arbor. You've played in the Big House. You've played in some wild environments. But have you ever heard anything louder than Heinz Field the moment Troy Polamalu dives over the goal line for that pick 6?
No, man, because when he got that, I don't know if I was dropping back in coverage, but when I seen him get the ball, I was so damn tired. I think I tried to block somebody. Troy went to the opposite side, and when he scored, I was just like, it's over. We got this game won. We got this game won. Because I think, when we down going into halftime to them by like 2 touchdowns almost?
No, that game is when you guys had the 2 touchdown lead and they came scraping back, clawing, fighting back to get into it. And yeah, and hey, you play a lot of big games in your life. I mean, some of them are going to start to melt together, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
But this is, like I said, it's Joe Flacco when he had that sort of Joe Cool reputation, and he might find a way to come back. And like I said, they had already started to claw and fight their way back. And Troy's interception kind of puts it on ice because it makes it 23-14 with about 6.5 minutes left in the game. But here's the other level to that game that I wanted to ask you about, because I think, and it happened to me too, I was a victim of it. Chronologically, we forget that the Ryan Clark-Willis McGahee hit happens just a couple minutes later after the Polamalu interception. So that is, to a man, everybody I've talked to about that hit, LaMarr, says that's one of the scariest moments I've ever seen on it, or heard in some cases. If I didn't see it live, I heard it, as James Ferrier said, happen. Have you ever seen a collision like that on a football field, I guess?
Man, one thing about Ryan Clark, he ain't going for no damn interception. He, week in and week out, he display on film that he's going to knock you down every week. And when I seen him hit Willis McGahee, I mean, when he hit him, Ryan knocked himself out too.
Right.
Ball came out, actually. Lawrence Timmon got the ball and he never even ran. It was a fumble. And I remember when I walked over and looked at Willis, because Ryan had eventually, I think, woke up. I mean, his eyes were like wide open. Like, I thought he was like done.
Yeah.
Because that hit was that powerful. Like, if you see Ryan Clark, when Ryan Clark is about to make a tackle, he's going to run through you. That was his mentality. He's going to run through you. Yeah. So
that's just what I can't imagine. Like, at that point, like I said, and you made a point, the game's kind of on ice, it feels like, but at the same time, you're like, man, that just happened. I hope that man's okay, even though he's on the other team, because they just drove him out of here in an ambulance. And our guy's on the sideline because he kind of knocked himself out as well. But you guys closed it out. And now, before you know it, it's time to head down to Tampa, right?
Check this out, though. When Ryan Clark do something like that, he puts shit on film. So when people see that the following week, they're going to think twice. That running back going to think twice. But coming out that backfield trying to catch a pass when Ryan Clark is there. So it also displayed that.
Well, let me ask you this as an aside before we get to the actual Super Bowl 43 run up. Is it the same now? Because look, big hits. I don't want to say the league has tried to legislate big hits out of the game, but they've tried to we don't get James Harrison on Muhammad Massaquoi anymore or on Colt McCoy anymore. We don't get Ryan Clark, Willis McGahee type collisions much, really all that often, if at all, in the sport. And I understand the league wants to eliminate head injuries as much as they can, but it is a violent sport. It's a collision sport, not just a contact sport. So do you watch it differently now and go, man, it's different and it's not the same? Or do you simply chalk it up and say, well, it is what it is. Football is going to grow and evolve.
Yeah, that's what I look at. Football going to grow and evolve, because when you look at back in the day when Mean Joe Green was playing with them damn forearms and clothesline and quarterbacks, and the rules in the game has just evolved. So it is what it is. It's still going to be a tough game. There's still going to be collisions. There's not just going to be certain things where colliding into somebody with your helmet. So I understand the safety when it comes to certain rules, but the game is still going to be tough when you're out there colliding against somebody and knocking somebody to the ground. You're still going to feel all those bumps and bruises.
So as you guys are leading up to Super Bowl 43 against the Cardinals, this is not, people have a certain image in their mind of the Arizona Cardinals. It's not a franchise with a great lineage of success, but that year in particular, the roster's littered with Hall of Famers. You got Kurt Warner, you got Larry Fitzgerald, you got Anquan Boldin, you got Edgerrin James. Steve Breston was on that team and had 1,000-yard receiving season. So there's a ton of talent out there on the field at any given time. What's your mindset as a defense going into that thing?
The same mentality that we had all year, is that set the tone on the first play. And I think if you go back and if anybody go back and watch the first play of the Super Bowl, I think the first time we were on defense, everybody on the Arizona Cardinals front line is on the ground. Like, we set the tone by letting them know that we were here to play. And I think from that moment, that's what we did. That's what we did.
So we're getting to late in the first half now. And it's a chance for you guys to go into the half with the lead, but the Cardinals are driving. They get down to the 2 or 3 yard line. It's 1st and goal. And Coach LeBeau calls what amounts to an all-out blitz, like a zero blitz. And James Harrison, being James Harrison, decides to sort of audible himself and reads Kurt Warner's eyes, drops right in to where Warner doesn't even see him, picks the ball off, and starts running. At that point where he picks it off, what's your initial reaction? And then as you start to see this thing develop and you're running downfield after it, trying to find somebody to get hands on to block, are you thinking to yourself, man, James, get out of bounds so we can kick a field goal? Man, James, just go down. Or are you thinking to yourself, no, we're taking this to the house?
Well, all that week, and I'm pretty sure other guys may have said it, Coach LeBeau talked about that big, having a big play in the game. And all week we're kind of screwing around. And he said, we're going to need a big play to win the game. But we always, throughout the year, whenever in practice, somebody get an interception, we turn and we block somebody. It's always been the thing. Turn around and block somebody for your teammate, because this play can help win the game. So I'm glad that they didn't set that play up on my side, because I would have rushed and we would have never got an interception, because I was too young to be making decisions that I'm going to do what I want to do. So I rushed in and I heard the crowd,
yeah.
But I look and I see that James has the ball and he's about to run. So Kurt Warner was right there. And I thought about blocking him, but I said, fuck, he's too slow. He's not going to make the tackle. So I ran past
let him go. Yeah.
Literally, that was my decision. I looked, I'm like, nah. Usually that's the easiest target to get a good tee off on somebody, but
yeah,
I'm thinking he ain't even fucking worth blocking, because he's not going to get the tackle. So I took off running.
On to the next one.
I see the running back, I think his name was Hightower or something.
Yep.
So I pushed him. And when I pushed, I thought maybe James may have went down. And I looked back and James is still running. Now, meanwhile, I'm out of gas.
Yeah.
I'm on E. I got one push left. And I just reached out and I jumped and pushed Hightower, fell to the ground. James jumped over me, and all I can do was look. Go, James, go.
So yeah, you're watching it the whole. You're laying right along the sideline, right?
Yeah, I'm on the field looking.
And so you're just watching it from behind the whole way, like from Deshae trying to take the ball out of his hands to to you think he's going to step out of bounds because he starts to kind of get that tilt a little bit, and then all of a sudden towards the end where Larry comes back in and he gets blocked and James literally falls over the goal line. You're just laying there in the grass along the sideline watching the whole time like, oh my God. Did he really just take it all the way back?
Shit, I wasn't for sure. I was gassed. Shit, I knew at halftime, and I don't know what happened. I hope they called it a touchdown because we need it. But I'm tired. Let's head to the locker room.
So and I had forgotten about it, LaMarr, until honestly I went back and watched the game, obviously in preparation for this. The review process takes what feels like forever. And everybody's just sitting around like it's a Super Bowl. It's important we get to halftime. We got commercials to show. We got, I don't know, it was Bruce Springsteen maybe that year was the halftime show. We got to get a stage out here. We got to get things moving. Halftime's already long enough. But everybody's just standing around waiting, and they finally confirmed the touchdown. And like you said, you get into the locker room, and I haven't had a chance to ask anybody else about this, but it brings to mind just how long is that Super Bowl halftime as compared to a regular halftime? It's like twice as long, isn't it?
Well, let me go back to that play because I want to also thank the Arizona Cardinals for a hell of a blocking scheme they set up because they didn't back up off the sideline. So thank you for blocking Larry Fitzgerald. He was trying to get through there because if they didn't throw their block, they might have got James down. So thank you, Cardinals, for blocking on the sideline, for not clearing the sideline. That's why they always tell people to get back.
Back up. Got to have a get back coach.
But the halftime at during Super Bowl, it is long. And being that we had just came off a Super Bowl run in Detroit, I wasn't a part of it. We still had a lot of veteran guys on there. A lot of the coaches was on there. So it was just like they knew how to prepare for that halftime. So they talked about that the first hour or whatever of the halftime, we gonna just relax and chill. That's what we did. We just sat in the locker room and we was just relaxing, not doing anything, but just cooling off. And then we treated it like regular game. And then we started, the coaches started talking and stuff like we usually do throughout the season to go out.
It's almost like you got to completely re-warm up again, I would think, sitting around for like 20, 25, 30 minutes.
Hell no, that was a good break. That was a real
everybody's gassed after the pick six.
Yeah, you got to cool down a little bit. You got to relax. And at halftime, I brought my video camera out. I just knew we were going to win the game. I had a little handheld camera. I snuck in underneath my shirt and put it on the sideline because I just knew we was going to win after that game.
So you had it on the bench the whole time?
Yeah. I had to hit it.
I just did the Weebay from The Wire, like, oh. So you get back out there for the second half, and you're up 2014, I think is the score, with about 3 minutes left. Justin Hartwig gets flagged for a holding in the end zone. So all of a sudden, it's just a 4-point game. And the Cardinals are getting the ball back, too, to boot. So it's a moment. It's everybody I've talked to about this moment says, man, that's the one thing that worried me, is that might be that thing that kind of ruined the reputation for us as a defense. Just one play, and it's the Warner to Fitzgerald touchdown pass, right? 64 yards, right down the middle of the field. You guys have been the best defense in the league all year, but all it takes is one play to erase that notion in some people's minds. What's the reaction? Because a lot of guys have told me they were just kind of numb, like, I can't believe that just happened.
I felt like it was still a lot of football left. That's what I felt like. The game ain't over with till it's over with. They made a big play, but we still got an opportunity. So I wasn't panicking.
Is a lot of that just due to the sense that you had Ben Roethlisberger getting the ball, and he had been that guy who that's 2 minutes and 45 seconds left, down by 3. Okay, yeah, we got Ben. He'll have the ball. He'll take care of it.
Man, you got Ben, you got Santonio Holmes, who's been making plays since Ohio State. Me watching him at Ohio State. So I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried. I got a little worried once we got a holding call in the end zone. I was worried then. But other than that, no, man, I have faith, hoping that our offense can go out there and get it done.
So you're standing on the sideline watching Ben and Santonio work their way down the field. Are you watching the scoreboard? Are you right on the sideline watching it at field level? What's your point of view on that drive as it's progressing?
Oh, I'm on the bench looking at the scoreboard.
Okay. So they get down in the red zone. Ben rolls out once and tries to hit Santonio, and Santonio drops it. And then comes back very next play. Again, it's Ben on the move because that's when Ben's at his best. And he throws an absolute I heard a softball coach use this term around my daughter's softball team the other day, and I think it's a hilarious term. But he throws an absolute piss missile into the corner of the end zone, and somehow Santonio gets his hands up and on it. Oh, You're watching the scoreboard, like you said. Are you instantly assured in your own mind, oh, yeah, it's Tony, got his feet down? Or are you sitting there waiting for the replay like the other 75,000 people?
I'm waiting on the replay, wondering how the hell did he do it? That's what I'm wondering. How the hell did he get those toes and his feet down? How did he do that? And so it's Santonio catching the ball. We know he do that. But getting his feet down in the corner of the end zone was amazing. It was amazing.
It's to have two moments like that in the same Super Bowl from the same team, both the James Harrison pick six in return, and then the Ben DeSantonio throw in the corner of the end zone. Two of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history from the same team in the same game. But you still got to close things out. There's still 30 seconds left on the clock. And let's be honest, who knows with the Cardinals? Because, like I said, all that firepower at their disposal. And they get the ball, I want to say at their own 23. I think there's a quick completion or a couple quick completions that kind of move the ball out towards midfield. And like one more might put them in striking distance. And they've got to score a touchdown. So it's not like a field goal is going to get it done, but you're still on high alert. And then it happens. You bust through, and there's the strip sack, and the ball comes loose. I think Kiesel jumps on it. Look, I asked you about the feeling of sacking a quarterback earlier, but sacking a future Hall of Fame quarterback, strip sack, knocking the ball loose so a teammate can recover it to clinch a Super Bowl, that's got to be next level, like football career pinnacle type moment stuff.
Yeah, because it's almost like a movie scene almost. I remember being on the sideline and Coach Tomlin coming to me like, "Hey, Wood, we need a big play." I've seen that in a bunch of movies where the coach tells somebody, "We need a big play. It's 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. We need a big play from you." I'm like, "All right, coach." So in your mind, you're like, "Man, let me try to go out here and make a play." And not realizing like you're going to ultimately make the biggest play, one of the biggest plays to help capture that Super Bowl. And that's what he did. Was able to get that sack for his fumble, and Brett Kiesel jumped on the ball and it helped win the game. So it was a hell of a way to cap off my first year starting and to be a Super Bowl champ, to end the game with a sack for his fumble.
Who ended up with the ball? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, Brett Kiesel. He know I'm still looking for that ball. Brett Kiesel set me up. When I got the sack for his fumble after the game, he came up to me with the ball and said, "Wood, you want the ball?" "No, I want the ball. I'm excited about winning the Super Bowl."
Yeah.
And when I got home that night, I said, "I want the ball. Damn, I should have got that ball." Yeah. So I'm still trying to get that ball. So hopefully Brett Kiesel bring that ball back home one day.
If I get a hold of Kiesel, I'm pretty sure he's out in the wilderness somewhere. What a surprise. If I get a hold of Kiesel, I'm going to tell him you're still looking for the ball.
Yeah, I'm still looking for that ball, man.
So I've thrown this number out to a couple guys. Some of them, most of them didn't realize it, but I think it puts into perspective what the defense, just how good the defense was, not just that year, but that era of Steelers defense. So the Steelers, an organization well known for defense, right? You mentioned Mean Joe Green, the Steel Curtain of the 70s. The Pittsburgh Steelers as a franchise have finished first in the league defensively in yards allowed and points allowed in the same season just 4 times. And only once did it happen during the 70s, actually. It was 1976, actually a year where they didn't even win a Super Bowl because Rocky Bleier and Franco Harris were both hurt. The other 3 times, LaMarr, that a Pittsburgh Steelers defense finished first overall in yards against and points against were all Dick LeBeau defenses, 2004, 2011, which you were part of, and the year we just got done talking about, 2008. So you were at the core, and look, there's not just the moment of being the guy who has the strip sack to clinch the franchise's last Super Bowl, but being a part of something, I guess, greater than even that, and that is this almost annual sense of we are going to be the best defense in the league and nobody can stop us. So when you look back on it, having 3 of the 4 Steeler defenses all time that have produced the way those ones did, does it hit a little bit different, I guess, when you consider the group that you were a part of in 2008 and 2011?
Yeah, it does. It was a special group of guys, and you understand, why that group was so special. And the group from everybody, I mean, the entire team, the organization, it was just overall special. It was great moments. It was shit, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. So, yeah, I definitely appreciate that.
And how many of these guys do you still keep in touch with to this day still? As you're back home in Michigan now, and some guys are spread out all across the country, all across the globe, to be quite honest. Do you still keep in touch with the guys from that era of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense? And is it necessarily that unusual for a group of guys this many years later, 15 years since that Super Bowl was won, to still keep in that close of contact in some cases?
No, I can't say that I've been in contact like that with a bunch of the guys, because I was still a young guy at that time when you're talking about that team. Like me and Ryan Mundy, we stay in contact. We went to Michigan together. He was there with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the time. So we was around kind of like that same age. So I hung out with him a lot. But I do talk to one of the guys that I probably talk to the most is Larry Foote. He's down there in Tampa right now. So me and Foote get on the phone and start talking. We'd be on the phone 2 or 3 hours, and Foote just always motivating and talking about growth in life. So we just have real man conversation. So that I enjoy that with Larry Foote when he calls and talks.
Well, you were one of the guys that helped take it from the established group that had won Super Bowl 40, had a year or 2 off, and then bounced back to win Super Bowl 43. Like I mentioned, you, Will Gay, Lawrence Timmons, part of the Tomlin era and his first Super Bowl appearance and Super Bowl victory. I don't think it can ever be overstated, understated what you meant to that defense. We talked about the stats and the level of success you had the first couple of years in the NFL. So, LaMarr, really appreciative of your time. Thank you for sharing some stories about that year and what it meant to you to be a part of the last Super Bowl champion defense here in Pittsburgh.
Hey, I appreciate that. And while I'm on here, y'all got to check out my production company, Area 56 Entertainment. So now I'm into TV. I have a production company here in Detroit. I got a series that's actually going to be coming out during the draft here in Detroit. I just finished producing it, and in May we're finishing up post-production on it now. So I'm doing that. I got a comedy special I'm doing with one of Kevin Hart's comedian, William Spank Horton, that we produced a comedy special on him. So we're in post-production on that. So I've been doing some stuff outside of football now, so I wanted to plug that in.
Absolutely. We appreciate you letting us know, because that now we got to go check it out. If he's a Kevin Hart guy, he's got to be funny.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the special that'll be coming out around the draft. What is that focused on?
It's actually focused on a guy making a transition from college to the
Okay.
professional life. Young guy being drafted, entering into this new world with fame and wealth, and learning how to really deal with that world. Being a highly rated draft pick and being drafted in your hometown and all the stuff that really comes with it. So you have to mentally prepare yourself for that. So it's called Draft Day, and it's loosely based about my life. Produced 3 25-minute episodes here in Detroit.
Okay.
We filmed it in May. I'm finishing up everything in post right now. We did original scoring on there, produced original music. I didn't personally produce it, but yeah, I have a production company here, so we're gonna release it. Plan on releasing it during the draft 2024 here in Detroit. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to checking it out. So thanks for turning us on to it. LaMarr, thank you again for the time. Super appreciative, as I said, of you giving us some of your day here today to talk about the last Pittsburgh Steelers defense to win a championship and the role you played in it. Thanks again.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
So a little taste of what LaMarr Woodley is doing these days. Those days, 15 years ago, the last time the Steelers won a Super Bowl, he was the guy who closed out Super Bowl 43 and was a crucial part of that team succeeding that year. And of course, those great defenses under Dick LeBeau, Bill Cowher, and later Mike Tomlin. Every single week, we've got a new episode for you from somebody who was involved in the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Right here on Oh Momma, the story of the '08 black and gold defense, brought to you by South Hills Kia. Keep it here. Next week, a new episode right here on the 93.7 The Fan YouTube page.